This is the Arturia Keylab Mk2. When you invest in a big keyboard like this, you want to make sure it can do everything it possibly can. And it needs to feel right too. So, does the Keylab 88 deliver? And is it right for you? Let's find out. Music Radar named the Keylab Mk2 the best MIDI controller and sequencer of 2019. Now, I've already reviewed the Keylab 49, so many of the features are the same with the 88 key version you see right here. But one thing stands out on the 88 version. I'll go over that and the best features in today's video. If you're new around here, I'm Sanjay C. I have tons of videos about music production and gear reviews on my channel. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I always get straight to the point in my tutorials and reviews. Now, I get a lot of questions from people who are looking for a digital piano for their living room to play on or to learn how to play the piano on. So let me cover something first. The Keylab 88, like other dedicated MIDI controller keyboards, is not a standalone piano in that it doesn't have sounds stored internally and it doesn't have speakers. MIDI controllers are meant to be used either with a keyboard to play software instruments or with hardware synthesizers to control the sounds that they generate. If you just want something you can switch on and play, you should be looking for a digital piano. The strength of a MIDI controller lies in how well it allows you to control and manipulate sounds through sound design using its knobs and faders and buttons, and also how well it allows you to control your digital audio workstation, helping the efficiency of your music creation or performance. Let's explore the controls from left to right. All the way on the left, you've got your pitch and modulation wheels. You've got some chord memory functions here where you can record a chord in. Then you've got octave up and down and your 16 pads. And you can use these to control some functions on your DAW or to finger drum. The pads themselves feel pretty good, but not as good as Akai pads and machine pads, in my opinion. Moving right, you've got your transport controls, rewind, forward, stop, play, and record, and loop. Above that, you've got some unique DAW controls, and these controls change depending on which DAW you set. Right now, I've got it set on live. The Keylab comes with multiple magnetic overlays for this section, so if I'm using live, I'll put that overlay on. And now you see that these controls are specific to Ableton Live. I can use these to solo, mute, record, arm automation, and punch in, punch out, turn on and off the metronome, and undo. Moving over to the right, you've got your screen and your main encoder knob. This encoder knob changes its function depending on what you're doing. You also use these to control your user templates. More on that later. Moving right, you've got 9 knobs and 9 faders, and you've got select buttons down here. These buttons do things like select tracks or select different categories in the Analog Lab software. This is the biggest keyboard that Arturia makes, and it follows the same layout as the 49 and 61 key versions. But this adds hammer action keys by Fatar that Arturia says has a mechanical feel, very close to a real piano. That's the most notable difference between the 88 and the 49 and 61 key versions. So, does it live up to the hype? The spring action is good, the weight is good. Now, I did find that compared to some other keyboards, the touch is a little heavier than others. This may not be a bad thing if you're used to playing on heavy pianos. But it's kind of different for everyone, and key feel is very subjective. If you're a pianist, having hammer action keys makes all the difference. Expression comes out more naturally because this is how we've learned to play. It's what your fingers are used to. Now, are you going to be able to switch between your Steinway and the Keylab 88 and feel no difference? Of course not. This is a different type of device. And beyond the piano feel, there are a ton of features to control software synths, hardware synths, and your DAW. By the way, the 49 and 61 key versions have all the same DAW and synth control features, and you can watch my review of the 49 key version here. Now let's talk about the construction. You just can't beat the construction of an Arturia keyboard. Keyboards from other manufacturers in this price range just don't feel as well made. The surface is metal, and there's real wood on the sides, and it just feels high quality. And the 88 key version adds a couple features that you may not find on any other MIDI controller keyboard out there. For example, you've got this handy laptop stand, and you've also got a stand for your sheet music. Having the laptop stand is really useful if you're performing on stage. Also, the Keylab can be powered either by USB from your laptop or using a power adapter. So what can you do with the keyboard connected to your laptop? Well, you can use the Keylab 88 to control the most used features of your DAW and control Analog Lab, the software Synth by Arturia. Now I'll get to Analog Lab in a second. For now, let's look at the DAW features. For Ableton Live, the drum pads function as clip triggering. You can of course use the faders to change the volume of different tracks. Let's turn down the drums and those pianos. Let's bring the pianos back in. The beat. The knobs at top control pan. The buttons at the bottom select your tracks. You'll see the name of the track you've selected on your screen. You can also use the large encoder knob to select different scenes in Ableton Live. The Keylab doesn't map controls for Ableton devices automatically, as you'll see here, but you can do this pretty easily by creating a MIDI remote script. I show you how to do that in a video here. Arturia keyboards are tightly integrated with their Analog Lab and V Collection software. The Keylab 88 includes Analog Lab and 7,000 presets from the collection of vintage synths, pianos, organs, and more. It also comes with Ableton Live Lite. Analog Lab helps you access all of the presets from the vintage synths, pianos, and other instruments that Arturia has to offer. You can browse the presets with the main controller knob and filter with the buttons over here. And when you load an instrument, you can use all these knobs and faders to sculpt your sound to your heart's content. The Keylab 88 is also a very capable sequencer and hardware synth controller. I've connected my Mini Brute hardware synth to the Keylab using the CV connection in the back, and I've set up the modulation wheel to control the filter cutoff. Now I can play the Mini Brute, and I can control the cutoff using the modulation wheel. It's not just compatible with Arturia synths, you can use any hardware synth. The Keylab has CV connections for gate, pitch, mod, and input, as well as standard MIDI ins and outs. The nice part about the Keylab keyboards is that you can create templates for whatever you use. Using Arturia's MIDI Control Center software, you can modify pretty much any control, any button, any knob, any fader on the Keylab and assign it to any MIDI control you want. I've created a template for my Prophet 6 synth so I can control it with these knobs and faders. I've also created a template for the Nexus 3 software plugin so that these controls are automatically mapped to the default controls in Nexus 3. Now you can create whatever you want with these user templates and they can be really powerful. Now let's run upstairs. I have a digital piano there, a Yamaha, and I want to compare the keys on the Yamaha to the Keylab. I was surprised to find that the keys on the Yamaha digital piano were so much lighter than the Keylab. So how does the Keylab 88 compare to the S88 by Native Instruments? In my opinion, the hammer action is heavier on the Keylab. If you've been trying to decide between the Keylab 88 and the S88, consider the differences in features rather than the key feel. The Keylab has more ways to control sound because it has faders, and it's got drum pads and lots of ways to control hardware synths as well. You don't get that on the Native Instruments keyboard, but Native Instruments has those really nice color screens which are actually useful. And I really love them. And I think the screen is where the Keylab keyboards fall behind a little. Can you live with the small screen on the Keylab? For sure, the Arturia Keylab 88 is a solid keyboard with pretty much every feature you can think of for DAW and hardware synth control. Having something like this really gives you full control of your music composition or performance. Are the keys good enough for a pianist? Well, yes, they're definitely a step up from the synth action keys on other keyboards. But keep your expectations in check. This is not an acoustic piano, but for controlling hardware synths in your DAW and having those amazing synth sounds from the Arturia collection, this might be the right choice for you if you've got piano fingers. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Keep making the music that you love, and hey, check out one of these videos next.